here is why it's perfectly okay if you don't have a perfect GPA. Not having a perfect GPA doesn't define you as a person. It doesn't tell admissions committee about your skills or about your personality. So don't stress if you don't have a perfect 4.0. What is the lowest minimum threshold that you need to have to apply to dental schools? 3.0. 3.0 is something that everybody aims for. That's your lowest required. Why? Well, as I talk about a lot, all of the schools have databases. All of the databases have filters that the schools set to kind of sift through the applicants. They have thousands of the applicants. They cannot review all of them at all times. So even if you're a very good person, there's a chance that if your GPA is lower than 3.0, the admissions committee will actually not even see your application. If your GPA is 3.0, it means most of their grades were Bs. Which is pretty good. It means you know how to study. You are not a terrible student, you're not the best, but you're not the worst. Obviously, pretty good is not amazing and it doesn't guarantee you admission, but don't worry if your GPA is 3.0, because think about it. All of the applications that the admissions committee sees is from 3.0 to 4.0. So the marginal difference in the grade is not very important when it comes to actually reviewing the applicant and seeing their personal qualifications that can bring them up in the eyes of the admissions committee. Let's imagine two applicants. So we have a person with 4.0, a perfect GPA, and a person with 3.0, pretty bad GPA realistically, like the lower end of acceptable. So we admit both of them. Let's say they have both of them, the rest of the applications is awesome. They're awesome candidates, so they invite both of them for an interview. But a 4.0 candidate is very introverted. He is the person who cannot speak, who doesn't show himself great on an interview, and doesn't have anything to connect with the interviewer. But the person with 3.0 is a live over party. Everybody loves him. He makes immediate friends with everybody in school. So even though they have pretty different GPAs, who do you think the school is going to admit? I would bet my money on the person with a lower GPA. So in that case, when you have a lower GPA and you actually do have a chance of getting invited to an interview if your other sides of applications are really good. So you still have a great chance of getting admitted if you are invited to an interview. What is the perfect GPA? The perfect GPA is of course 4.0. In this case, compared to TOEFL that I had my previous video, TOEFL does not matter if you have a higher grade or lower grade. It's a pass-fail test, pretty much. It isn't, but let's consider it as one. But GPA is not the same. GPA actually matters. The higher is actually the better. The closer you are to 4.0, the better the chances you get admitted. Why? Because as I mentioned before, in those filters, yes, they will see everyone's application from 3 to 4, but the schools usually like to report their statistics of entering class. For example, when they have 100 people entering, they want to say that the average GPA of entering class is as close to 4 as possible, and that reflects of general prestige of the school. So of course, the universities want to actually admit the students with the highest GPA for their personal statistics. That's amazing. So they would never go for a candidate who will lower the average GPA of the class. If they take most of the applicants with a GPA of 3, the average GPA of the class will be pretty low, and that's not going to look good with all the future applicants because the school is not going to be as cool. Is it absolutely necessary to have a perfect GPA? No. As I described in the example above, GPA is your only reason to get your foot in the door. Having a higher GPA you will be more likely seen by the admissions committee, and it will give you a higher chance to actually be invited on the interview. Once you are invited, it does not mean that the candidate with a higher GPA will get in and the candidate with the lowest GPA doesn't. Once you're actually on the interview, all of the other factors go out the door and it's just your personality that will shine. So if you're invited to an interview, do not worry if your GPA is lower, because you still will have exactly the same chances of getting in as anybody else in the room, no matter what statistics they have. In fact, if you have a 4.0 GPA, you're probably at a disadvantage because your application may seem like a cookie cutter application, and the admissions committee will see you as kind of a more boring person because they do want to have a pretty high scores to report their stats. But if you have such high GPA, Plus, if you have a ton of research and a ton of other academic advances over other students, you may seem as a boring, lifeless person. In that case, you will actually have to work on your application to put some personal things and extracurricular activities to make the admissions committee see you as a candidate who can actually bring something to the student body and participate in the activities of the school. We all have that classmate, you know, who will never settle for 90. They will get 99, but they want that 1% to get 100. And that person's not usually the nicest person in the room. So is that going to be good for your application? Most likely no. Schools are looking for a person to be nice around. They're looking to basically bring somebody in their environment, to somebody who they will interact for 2 years. Plus, they want people who will participate in their extracurricular activities, take photos for Instagram, and somebody who will become a very communicable alumni who will donate to the school in the future. So they want to this is why they want you to see you as a person. And if you have a highest GPA, if you have a perfect GPA, that may actually become a disadvantage. My point of this ramble is that it does not matter what your GPA is as long as it's more than 3.0. If it's more than 3.0, anywhere in the range between 3 and 4, you should be good. You should be okay to apply, and do not worry about your GPA and just apply. I have so many people messaging me asking me, what do I do? My GPA is 3.0. It's pretty low. It is, but just make sure all the other parts of your applications are strong, and you will definitely have very competitive chance of getting it. Many people ask me if they should pursue a master's degree or any other kind of degree to kind of average out their GPA and bring it up, especially when their GPA is like 3.5. No, guys, you do not have to take any additional education programs if your GPA is over 3, because that will be just a waste of money, and actually it will look pretty bad on your application, because they will definitely ask you, why did you pursue a master's degree? And if your answer is because I thought my application wasn't good enough without it, they will see you as somebody who just collects degrees for no particular reason. You should always take the shortest possible way to the goal you're trying to achieve, and taking additional degrees will definitely not improve your application and may look very weird and suspicious. So don't try to take extra classes or take extra degrees just to have them because you think your application is not competitive enough. But there are some occasions where having a perfect GPA actually will be required for you if you're trying to apply to schools like UPenn, Michigan, and other Ivy League sort of schools who really care about their statistics. If you're applying to schools like UPenn, Michigan, or Harvard who really care about their prestige, they would rather admit more boring candidates who have higher GPA just because they really want to seem very prestigious and they want to seem like only the cream of the crop can get into those schools. That's the matter of just them being super cool. They're trying to get their entering class average GPA as close to 4 as possible, and they don't really care what they're sacrificing in the process. Does it mean that if you don't have a perfect GPA, you cannot apply to universities like UPenn or Michigan? Definitely not. Even I with my 3.4 applied to UPenn and got denied immediately, but it doesn't, you never know what they're gonna think. You never know what the admissions committee will be thinking on a certain day or time, and you may have a chance, but I wouldn't hold my breath if your GPA is not up to par. Another occasion when you are required to have a perfect GPA is if you have your eye on an oral surgery program. And this is where I have a huge beef with American education, because Americans overwork their oral surgeons. Just saying. But dental schools in America don't have anything to do with medical education. And when it comes to oral surgery, you actually have to know something about medicine. So when you are applying to an oral surgery, you're basically applying to a med school because they're going to quickly try and catch you up with all the medical subjects. This is why they want you to have a perfect GPA, because they want to know that you can actually handle that. I was talking to some classmates of mine who were going to apply to oral surgery programs who know how the process works behind the scenes, and this is what they told me. Basically, the admissions director uses the filter and sets the threshold for 4.0 GPA and sees what applications comes up. He reviews them and decides if he wants to see those people for an interview. And if there's not enough applications, he increases the threshold a little bit to 3.9 and sees what comes up then. If that doesn't really work, he goes to 3.8 and so on and so on. So he definitely starts with the GPA as its most important factor. GPA and the class ranking matters as well. So he will only look to top people first. And if there's enough of those, if there's plenty of people to fulfill all the seats of the program, then you, my friend, are probably going to be out of luck. What if your GPA is below 3? I would still apply, you guys. I know you would have slightly less chances of admission, but there's really nothing you can do to increase your GPA, because every application will always ask you to show your transcript from your original dental school. If you take more additional classes or if you get an additional degree, unfortunately, those grades will not sum together. That will not increase your GPA. Your GPA will still be the way it is, no matter how many additional degrees you get. So it's very important that you actually show it in your application, that you know what's going on, you know that your GPA is lower. Make every other part of your application outstanding, absolutely outstanding, and make sure you state in your personal statement that you know that this happened, you are aware of your lower GPA, and this is why they still should accept you. So if you have a lower GPA, apply to limited amount of schools. Definitely don't apply to those Ivy League high achiever schools. Make more picky decisions with schools that want to see personality more than prestige of the applicant, and really try to explain yourself and make yourself as attractive as possible. Do everything you can to make sure admissions committee overlooks that low GPA. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry about the equipment change and light change and everything that's going on in this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope you found it helpful. So thank you guys. I hope you return for the next video, and please check out all the links in the description. I don't know if you know, but I have a one-on-one guidance program where I personally talk to you and tell you why your application is the best in the world and why you're going to be the first one to get in this cycle and why you're going to be super duper successful. So if you want to work with me personally, check the link in the description, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.